Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Trent Brock, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I cannot thank you enough for making time in your schedule to do this. I'm super excited about our time together. Like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we'd like to start with where you were born, go all the way through your life story up to today. I know you have an amazing life story of survival and faith, and I'm super excited to get your story on tape. So thanks again for being here.
Cool. Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. You know, I've heard a couple of your podcasts already, and I think it's going to be a good one today.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll tell you, you ask me something, I'll just kind of start rolling. And so if you want to, just give me the wave and you ask me something and we'll go the other direction. So,
Awesome,
it's your show, man.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy to be a guest. And the thing is, right, we want somebody to hear this today.
Yeah.
And give them some hope and inspiration and, can maybe just give them a little kick in the butt to keep going.
That's exactly what you're doing. All right. So tell us where you were born.
Well, I was born in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Okay.
Kind of a little rough around the edges, Southern gentleman, if you will.
Did you grow up there?
Yeah, grew up there, high school, everything. And then I went to Louisiana Tech University.
Okay.
Which is a small school in North Louisiana.
Okay.
All my family went there. My folks met there. My
Monroe?
Grandparents. It's 30 minutes. It's 30 minutes east of Monroe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's close.
Yeah. So I was only an hour away from home at that time, and my grandparents lived in Ruston, Louisiana, where it is, and so I was 5 minutes down the road, and man, I loved my grandparents. They were awesome. So I go over once or twice a week, get dinner made, get my laundry done. My grandpa would talk about the old days and give me some great advice, man. He was one of my top mentors, Yeah.
So growing up in Shreveport, what was your favorite thing about growing up there?
Golly, man. Well, I haven't been back there in a long time. It's changed a lot, but it's just a city. It's just a city in North Louisiana. It wasn't too crazy. It wasn't too big. We didn't have rush hour and things like that. But there was all the things to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it would just be a pretty typical place, medium-sized city to grow up in Louisiana. And that's where I'm from. It's still kind of redneck. And then the further south you go, it gets a lot more Cajun. And so that's where things start to mix up. But God, grew up mid class, family thing. And played basketball in high school and tried to play on the golf team. And then it became college, and I just wanted to go where all my family went to school and be close to my grandparents.
I love it.
Yeah.
So your favorite thing growing up there would be?
Oh, golly. Oh, man, that is, gosh, my favorite thing. I don't have a good answer for you, really.
It's okay. It's okay. It's all right.
I like a lot of things about it. I think I would have to say at that point in time, being close to my relatives. My grandparents were an hour away. My other grandparents were 30 minutes away. My aunt and uncle were an hour and a half away in Monroe.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get to places from there, man. 3 hours down the road you get to Dallas, 5 hours to get to New Orleans. And so man, it was good. It was good. Had the comforts of the city life, but 20 minutes you get out of town, you go hunting, hunting, fishing, whatever, sportsman's paradise. And
Mhm.
guy, just get out in the woods, very easily.
Love
And,
it. So
good
growing
hunter.
up, who was the
Yeah.
most influential person to you?
Growing up, who was the most influential person? I would say, um, probably, when I started probably between like, when I got into college, it was my grandfather, man. He, he had dealt with some things in his life. He dealt with some depression and some alcohol things and stuff like that, but super smart guy, unbelievably good at business,
Mhm.
very good with real estate and things. And after dinner a lot of times, um, we would sit on the porch, and he'd sit in his rocking chair, and man, we would just talk. And the thing I loved about that guy was he never judged anybody,
Yeah.
He never judged you. He never condemned you. He just, he was always there. And hey, man, I mean, you got some old bird, sitting next to you, in their mid 70s. They got some wisdom,
Yeah, they
They
do.
got some wisdom. He
Been around
really,
the
he
block a
really
lot, a
helped.
few times.
He helped form, my direction and my path in life.
So
Yeah.
in high school, you played basketball and you played a little golf.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you have a favorite subject?
Mm. Yeah. I think basketball hour.
Mhm.
PE.
Right.
It was, yeah, right. So it was great. I got to, we got to do basketball practice
Mhm.
right before lunch. So we go to basketball practice, and then you get your lunch period. So it was a nice break in the day. A couple classes in the morning, then you get your break, couple classes in the afternoon, and then the day's over.
Yeah,
So
that's cool.
yeah, yeah,
So after you leave high school,
yeah.
you go to Louisiana State or Louisiana Tech, pardon me,
Louisiana Tech, yeah, yep,
right?
hmm
What'd you
yep,
major in?
yep. Well, I really thought I wanted to be a doctor. Okay, I
Mhm.
wanted to be an orthopedic kind of thing, and I love sports. I mean, when I was younger, I played everything: football, basketball, baseball, everything, right?
Yeah, me
And
too.
kind of what I thought I wanted to do was be a orthopedic sports doctor kind of thing,
Mhm.
and be on a profession, be on a professional team.
Yeah,
I just wanted to be around the sports thing.
sure.
So I got my degree in biology and chemistry, and then I took the MCAT, the medical entrance exam.
Mhm.
And the first time I just took it and I bombed it. I'm not a good standardized test taker. I'm not a good test taker. School's not my thing. I'm way better. I'm way better at everything after school,
Right,
in life. I'm way
right.
better at life.
I got you.
I had to study hard. Things didn't come easily for me. I had to really study hard to get good grades and things. So yeah. So I took the test the first time, and I'd been studying with some friends, but not hard. Well, I bombed it. I bombed it. Okay. So then the summer came around, and I took a class or two, but I took this super expensive, like MCAT review course,
Mhm.
and I studied all summer long for this, right?
Mhm.
And so right before school started, we had the exam, and I went in and I took it. There was several of us that were studying together, and taking this class together. This Princeton review or something, I think is what it was called.
Yeah.
They help people get ready for standardized tests.
Mhm.
And man, I left that thing and I was like, I did really well. I did really good, man. I just felt really good about it. Well, I got the same score that I got without studying. And at that point in time, that broke my heart, right?
Yeah.
It broke my heart, and it became a reality to me that um, you're not doing med school.
Yeah.
So I actually, my roommate in college was in business, and I had always kind of like, I just don't know if I can just handle med school and do all. I don't know if I'll make it. So I went in, he said, "Hey man, you need to go talk to this professor." He kind of takes people, he's a bit of a mentor.
Mhm.
And went in and talked to him, and I'd never met him before. First time I'd ever even been in the business building. Okay. By the end of our conversation, he hired me to be his graduate assistant, and I was going. I decided to get my master's in business.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what happened. So I got an MBA and I got an IT degree with that, and
Mhm.
then that launched me into my career.
So what
Yeah.
was your career? Where'd you go after that?
Well, I moved to Dallas.
Mhm.
There were several bases. I worked for Anderson Consulting, which is now called Accenture.
Mhm.
And so, I moved to the big city, and Dallas was my base. And I traveled around the country installing and customizing IT software systems.
Hmm.
And then, I kind of got tired of that, and I needed a break, man. It was very intense. It was a lot of work, pressure cooker environment. You're out of town all the time, flying at least twice a week, going out and coming home, and always traveling. And I liked all that, but I kind of got burned out. So
Yeah.
I took a year off after I built up some life goals, and I moved to Spain for a year.
Mhm.
So I wanted to try to learn Spanish,
Mhm.
and I wanted to teach English because I kind of had this feeling, do I want to maybe be a professor of some sort,
Mhm.
and do that. And then I just wanted to see everything that we see in the history books. I
Mhm.
want to see it for real.
Sure.
And so I did. We moved over there, didn't know a soul, didn't know a single person, couldn't speak Spanish. That because
Mm.
everybody's like, yeah, right. That was a really dumb move. People always say, if you want to learn a language, you just move to the country and immerse yourself.
Right.
And yeah, right. Well, it's pretty hard. And they lost my dadgum bag coming into the country, okay,
Right.
at the airport,
Right.
and I can't even talk. They're like pointing to pictures of what color is it and what
Right.
does it look like, and I'm like.
Right.
Then the other myth is, right? They're like, well, if you really want to learn Spanish, you need to get a Spanish girlfriend, right?
Mhm.
Well, let me tell you something. If you can't speak Spanish, they don't want to talk to you.
Right.
So that doesn't work out either.
Right.
So
Good luck with that. Yeah.
I ended up hanging out with the English teachers most of the time,
Yeah.
right? Because we were all kind of in the same boat. So I did that. I did that for a year, and that was tough, man. The Spanish thing, that's probably the second hardest thing I've ever tried to do. And then the next thing was, well, I'm gonna the plan was my dad was in the oil business,
Mhm.
and the plan was for me to, kind of work with him eventually. And he said, well, hey, look, I'll wait on you for a year, go down under, do your thing for a year and come back. And so that's when I started kind of traveling the world. I got back into IT because I was broke,
Yeah.
from making $15 an hour in Madrid, Spain, and I didn't go there for the money. I went there for the experience, right?
Yeah.
And so, I ended up in New Zealand,
Mhm.
and I couldn't get into Australia because of the visa thing and all the stuff. You need to be sponsored is really tough, but I could get into New Zealand, and it was, close enough for me. And I thought,
Mhm.
well, I'm going to just make enough money. I'm going to be a contractor, make enough money for the next, 9 months or a year. I'm going
Mhm.
to travel around, and once that money's gone, I'm going home.
Right.
And so, I was in New Zealand. Yeah, in New Zealand, I lived there about 16, 17 years in total. I'm back in the States now.
Wow.
But about 4 or 5 years into it, so every year my dad and I would kind of catch up and say, "Well, how you doing down there?" And I'm like, "I'm contracting, man. I'm on these projects. I'm creaming it. I was creaming it, and the money was hard to pass up." And my dad, be like, "Okay, well, enjoy yourself. Have a good time. Do another year. Do another year." Well,
What kind of
about after
contracting were you doing?
IT contract,
Okay.
software install, customization,
Okay.
testing. Same thing for like the telecoms down there.
Okay.
So I'd hopped around, and then I'd had some other projects like in Australia and Indonesia and some cool stuff like that that gave me some opportunities that I wouldn't have gotten here in the States.
Gotcha.
About 4 years into it, my dad and I caught up, and he's like, "Hey, look, the things have changed, and I just can't justify to the business that I need somebody now." And I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? Like, here's another turning point in my life. What am I going to do with
Mhm.
myself? So I just kept working in IT, and I'd had enough. I was kind of tired of it. It was the same old thing, and 10 years of that, and I've always been active, and I've always stayed active, going to the gym and doing things. And I found a love for boxing and kickboxing and things like that. I just love smashing on a bag, man. I love
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
And I was in the boxing gym, and some American guys showed up there. They showed up there. They were training for some fights, and they were down there training. 6 weeks. One of them got to be the number 5 top heavyweight in the world. So these guys were pretty big shots, right?
Yeah.
And at that point in time, man, there wasn't any Americans in New Zealand, man. They didn't know the secret. Now they're everywhere.
Mhm.
But so I very seldom would run into any Americans. These guys were cool, man. I'd hang out with them. I got to train with them, and
Mhm.
I got to know their manager. And he said, "Hey, look, I do kettle corn in my home state of Washington on the weekends as a side business. It's a nice cash business thing. And, I'm just curious, do they have kettle corn in New Zealand?"
Mhm.
Well, I went to the supermarkets. I went out to the markets. I looked around and I was like, they don't have it.
Hmm.
And, over a dirty takeaway curry at the food hall, me and this guy agreed we'd start a business.
Hmm.
And so we started a weekend popcorn business. They did, I mean, who doesn't love kettle corn, right?
Right.
Everybody loves kettle corn.
Right.
And you smell that stuff in the air. I mean, it's like kettle crack, man.
Yeah.
So we started out on the weekends, and I did both. I did the IT thing and then the weekends for a while.
And
And then,
this is in New Zealand, right?
yeah, all
Okay.
in New Zealand, all in New Zealand. Yeah.
Mhm.
And after about a year, I was like, I'm done. I always wanted to do my own thing. And
Yeah.
I always wanted to, corporate was, I'd had enough of the corporate world.
Yeah.
And, and in that point in time, right, back then it was like, you'll never ever get to the success that you want to do if you're not your own boss, if you don't
Mhm.
own your own business, and blah blah blah. So that's the mindset I had. Well, 14 years in the business, we moved from a weekend popcorn stand to, like, contracts with the rugby stadiums,
Mhm.
and then the cinemas, and then we started a manufacturing thing. And I don't know anything. I knew nothing about manufacturing, packaging, distribution, hiring staff, HR, accounting, all of it, right?
Right.
And so we grew to be the number 2 popcorn in the country,
Wow.
and
In New
two
Zealand or
manufacturers
in the US?
in New. Oh, no, just in New Zealand, man.
Okay.
In the states, dude. Yeah, that's $1 million deal down there. This is $1 billion big boys up here,
Yeah, it is.
and I go where there's easy competition, so
There
they
you
would
go.
just crush me, man.
So number 2
So
in New Zealand.
yeah. And a couple of manufacturing plants, 4 or 5 popcorn lines, and we supply to all the New Zealand supermarkets, the Pacific Islands, some of the Asian countries, the Middle East, and et cetera.
Mhm.
So, we were rocking and rolling, things were growing, we were building, we were getting new customers and clients, and, just trying to keep up. It was an exciting time.
That's cool.
And about 5 years ago, um, I started limping around the popcorn factory.
Hmm.
Small business, and I lead from the front, man. I would show my guys anything from working the line how to make the popcorn, to
Mhm.
packaging it, to bagging it, to cleaning up, and then going in the office and doing all the stuff you got to do to order your product and sell popcorn and do everything, right?
Right.
And so um, I started limping around, and it kept getting worse and worse and worse. I went to about 3 different doctors, and they all kept saying about a torn butt muscle. And it just, they thought I had, like, been over and picked up something in the factory and pulled it or something,
Hmm.
right? I had to go into the hospital to get some blood work done for something totally unrelated.
Right.
And the hematologist just said, "Hey, Trent, something is wrong with your hip." And I said, "Oh, no, no, no. It's a torn butt muscle." She said, "Will you get an x-ray for me today?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." So I get an x-ray and I leave. A week later, I'm in my car, and I'm headed to lunch. And as that cliche goes, I got the call that changed my life. And that was that you have extensive, aggressive hip bone cancer. You have a 1/4 inch of bone holding your leg onto your body. Every step that you take, you are in danger of breaking your leg. And if you break your leg, it will have to come off. You need to come to the emergency room right now, and we are checking you in. So this is
Wow.
how this whole cancer journey thing started.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And
That is quite wow. So where were you when you got this news?
I was in Auckland, New Zealand, from at my factory, leaving to go down the road to pick up, my lunch for the day.
Middle of a work day, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So it's straight into the hospital. They're just like, how are you going to get here? And I'm like, I'm going to drive. And they're like, well, when you get to the front door, get a wheelchair because, so it's sit straight in, and then they check me in, and then I'm there for several days, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't prepared for any of this. So they started doing the scans, and they start all the stuff. And I just said, hey guys, you know what? I'm not taking up a bed. I got a job to do. Um, when you need me to do something, when you need a scan, you need a blood test, just call me. I'll come in, but I'm not going to lay here in this bed.
Yeah.
So
I don't blame you.
about 6 months of that, in and out of that. Okay. So what they would do is they would do the scans and the x-rays, and they would start to make an implant. Well, in New Zealand is public health care. Okay. And we know in general that anything that's run by a government is kind of slow, and the service is average. Okay.
Yeah, you're being really polite here, but okay. Yeah, I'm with you.
I am. Yeah. What's the point in bashing on something? It's not going to change a thing. And so they would create this implant, and it would take a couple months to make it. Well, then we're ready to do a surgery. And then they would do the x-rays and get ready. Well, the cancer had progressed, so the implant wouldn't fit. So we did that. On the third time, they're like, hey, Trent, you know what? We're cutting your leg off. It's gone too far. We can't save it. And after 6 months of this, in and out of the hospital, and all this drama and all this stuff, and it was life-threatening. It was a life-threatening deal. They gave me, that was a 50-50. And I had gotten kind of smart, after having all these appointments, because a lot of times I go into the doctor, right? And this is a tip. This is one of my tips I like to give people.
Right.
When you go in, take somebody with you, okay? That can listen, but or record the thing, right? Because a lot of times what happens is you're going to go in and you got these ideas, or you're going to ask these questions or what you want to talk about to the doctor. But I always like to say, he's got his agenda. Let him talk first. Let him get everything out, and then I'll ask my questions to fill in. Well, a lot of times, like the first 2 or 3 minutes, they blow you out of the water, right? And you're trying to understand what's going on.
Right.
And for the next 20 or 30 minutes, you're talking, and then you don't remember anything. And these are like life and death.
Yeah.
Limb cut off, not cut off.
These are some serious.
Yeah. So, I had my folks on the phone, and my dad stepped in and he said, hey, look, you're not cutting this guy's leg off. You've been telling us you could do this for 6 months. We've been waiting. You're not doing it. This guy's a fighter. He's not a quitter. He doesn't quit on anything. You leave that leg, and he will make this thing work somehow. And he said, look, all right. He came back in about a week, and he said, look, we'll leave the leg, but I'm not guaranteeing functionality. I'm not guaranteeing feeling. I'm not guaranteeing it's going to work. It's going to really be more like a stump, and it's going to be shorter than the other.
Yeah.
It would be a lot easier life if you just cut the thing off and move on. Well, so the first surgery was this. So this is that, I've learned that visual aids help. Can you see that?
There you go. Yep, I see it.
So you can see this side has a hip, this side doesn't.
Right.
Okay. And they did an ingenious little thing where they wrapped this wire around the leg bone. So, because this is just jello, so it wouldn't just kind of gradually migrate or when you put a little pressure on it. So had the surgery, that was successful. 4 months of that, it got infected, never could get the infection, set 6 or 7 more surgeries, couldn't get over the infection. We tried everything. Finally, I wasn't allowed out of bed for 60 days straight.
Wow.
Couldn't get out of bed, man. And, like they'd have to, roll me over to go to the bathroom and roll me back. I mean, man, I was incapacitated, for quite a while. And so, hey, we got through that, mom and dad went home. And, I never quit working, the whole time. If you're a small business guy, I never quit working.
Yeah.
I would just put my laptop on my food tray. I'd do my emails. My team would come in and have meetings with me in the hospital. My suppliers would come in and meet me. I mean, I couldn't get out of bed, but hey, whatever. Because,
Right.
if I wasn't there to run it, we weren't going to make it.
You do what you got to do.
That's right, man. That's right. So we got out. Next scan, next scan happens. Lung and pancreatic cancer show up on the scan. And so that was a kicker, obviously, too. And pancreatic is a lot more serious, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to tackle that one first. And between the time that I was diagnosed and the surgery, COVID hit, and they locked us down.
Wow.
We were locked down. So I had the pancreatic surgery, and no visitors. My family couldn't come. They can't get in the country. And all that kind of stuff. So had the surgery. That went okay, but it was a bittersweet because it actually was a misdiagnosis, and they cut out half of my pancreas and spleen, and it ended up in the end being a blood clot. And so I was thankful that, I didn't have pancreatic cancer. That was the blessing. But, obviously, health-wise, it's compromised.
Right.
And basically, I got a very arrogant reply of, well, we couldn't tell what it was on the, in surgery. And I'm just like, that's not believable, And so, that's what happened there. So, we get out, and then we do the lung thing. So then we do the lung surgery, and, that was all right, but that got infected. And so I had decided that after all the opportunities that the orthopedic had with my leg, that I was done. We're not doing anything else. I know one day I'm going to have to come back to the States, and I'm going to deal with it then, because these guys had enough opportunities. I'm like, hey, we're done. Well, the orthopedic knew that I was in the hospital, and he came in and he said, look, that little wire thing, that's what's causing the infection, and we're going to take that thing out. So they had a junior surgeon.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.